Everyone, this is Nick Allen with Better Together. We're joined here today with City Council member Robert Ballard. We're really excited to have him here again for everybody tuning in. Better Together is a local news and interview station, Facebook page, YouTube channel here to just connect people and celebrate folks working together to make things better. So, Robert, Councilman, thank you so much for joining us today. Just go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience. Why did you decide to run for council in the first place, and how have things been going?
All right. Well, again, my name is Robert Ballard. It's kind of strange dipping back into the normal speech mode, but yeah. So I initially decided to run for office because I had a lot of friends and a lot of neighbors in the community ask me to run, and initially this wasn't on my calendar. This wasn't something that I planned on doing. But there was the community was voicing a need for somebody to jump into the race, and I knew it was something that I was capable of doing. So that's initially why I ran. I did see a few issues that I knew I could really get passionate about, and one of those issues was definitely just getting back to the basics. I felt as though a lot of times not only just municipal government, but government around state and federal levels, they're getting so far away from the proper role of government,
Hmm.
and I just kind of want to do my part to bring that back into to scope.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's great. I mean, I know that was one thing that we were pushing at Better Together was making sure that every race is competitive. So we were excited to see that you stepped up and made sure that people had a choice, and you got it. You got the win
Yeah,
too. So
yeah.
that's exciting. So first 70 days, I checked, you got sworn in on the 5th, so you're 70 days in. Um, what surprised you so far?
Um, I don't know if there was too many surprises.
Okay.
I guess that they always tell you that there's going to be a lot on your plate, and I knew that was going to be something coming into it. I didn't. It was kind of an eye opener, a gut check, maybe when I left for orders at the beginning of June. I left and I was like, no problem. I'll be able to pick it back up, be able to switch back on right when I get back. And the amount that I miss in a month was just absolutely insane. It was a little different because I didn't have cell phone service. I couldn't just check Facebook or check, the Daily Sentinel to kind of catch up on what was going on. So, there's still stuff that happened in June that I'm completely unaware of that I'm just trying to wrap my head around. So, that was something that I wasn't quite prepared for. And then just the absolute dedication of time, and it's always something on your mind. There's no taking a back seat to it. There's no, well, I'm just gonna be a seat filler or anything like that. You are actively always a city council member. You've always got that hat on, like our city attorney John likes to always say. You've always got that hat on, and as a council member, you always have to be aware of that.
Right, totally. Thinking of that, I mean, you're a busy guy. You have a family, you obviously you work full time, plus, being in the reserves. Before we dive in further into your just work as a council member, we really care a lot about people running for office and making sure that our people are represented, especially people that, are their working families, etc. So what was it like running? How would you encourage other people in a similar position? And what is it like now trying to balance, your life and this commitment?
First and foremost, start prioritizing. If I were to advise anybody looking at running into we'll call this a volunteer elected position because you're not getting paid a ton, right? So it's not really a career position. Um, when you start looking into this, you start have to look at what parts of your life you want to prioritize, what parts of your life you're willing to give up because you will give up something, and then make that determination and say, all right, these are the things that I will not let go. And so actually, that brings up a good point. I didn't do a interview with you during the election, and
Mhm.
I dug my heels in on that. And the big reason was because I had looked at the calendar and I said, yeah, I probably could squeeze in 30 minutes here, but that's going to be 30 minutes I'm not cuddling with my daughter. So
Sure.
that's 30 minutes that I'm not spending my time with my family. And I said that regardless of what happens, God and family are definitely at the top of my list. So I'm going to prioritize that. And so
Mhm.
that's the reason why, I make the decisions I make. It doesn't mean I'm able to be as involved as, let's say, Cody Kennedy, who definitely takes this as a full-time position. I'm not going to be able to do that. And I think I laid out my expectations, or I set my expectations
Mhm.
correctly when I jumped into it.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, and it's really in any of these opportunities, it's balance. There's only so much time, and so I think that's excellent advice to give folks of make sure you know what you're willing to put out there. Well, what do you think, what's been so far one of your bigger challenges being on council? And I think if you want to talk about any votes recently or just overall approach.
Um, Biggest challenge obviously has been time management. That's been a big thing because there's just a lot of things that do ask for your time, and like I said, there's sometimes where you're just going to have to say I'm not going to be able to do that, and you have to
Mhm.
be okay with that. And that's hard for anybody, the type of personality that does jump into something like this. There's somebody that wants to do it all. They want to do it all at 110%, and you really need to be okay with saying nope, it's just as good as I can get it, and then that's fine. um, Beyond that, there are, we've I there have been some issues. The streets that shall not be named, obviously, were a big one, right? And I know that there are many of my supporters who definitely had that urge to jump in here and just get the 100% win on it. And don't get me wrong, we absolutely we definitely could have, but you know when we were looking at needs and wants, looking at that neighborhood north of downtown, I saw a neighborhood that struggles with a lot of things that we struggle with here in Orchard Mesa: street racing, speeding, um, lack of access to our parks because, trying to cross a busy road, those sorts of things. We see that up here on Orchard Mesa.
Mhm.
And I saw a very good alternative where could reroute that traffic easily and without too much heartburn down 7th. And so I said, let's revert south of Grand, but we'll keep that neighborhood, that little bit more quiet state that it's at. And so I thought that was a good compromise. I thought it was something that would relieve a lot of the stressors on the businesses downtown, and also help out the folks that are in that neighborhood. The thing is nobody's going to be happy. I mean,
Sure.
we're seeing the struggle with trying to keep the bike lanes in there. I mean, that there's chances that the bicycling community is not going to be happy. There's chances that my supporters are not going to be fully 100% happy. It's just trying to find that the in between is important, because honestly, I don't just represent the people that elected me. I do represent them as well. And I will always look back to them and hope that they have my support in the future. But also, as a representative of this community, you do have to think about the needs of the entire community and not just your political wins.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And there's, always a lot of opinions as well as, different stakeholders in every decision along those lines. And you've had some big votes, already. And I hearing more about the strategic plan that's getting built out too. I'm excited to dive in some to that. But what goes into you making a decision? What do you like when something comes forward from the city, or fellow council members? Like, where do you go in your mind? Where do you look to or think about in order to try and come up with your decisions?
Pretty much just go back to needs and wants, right? Is there a problem that exists, and is this problem significant enough or within the wheelhouse of our city government? Is the solution that's proposed actually going to solve that problem? And if it does solve the problem, is it going to solve the problem in a way that robs people of their rights to services or their personal property rights? Um, those are pretty much just like the check boxes that I go through. And then, you've got your basic sniff tests. You're going to ask questions. You don't walk into every meeting knowing everything. Well, we had the workshop last night, and we're talking about waiving impact fees for um, certain AMI housing, and
Mm-hmm.
whether or not we should backfill those fees. Something that I've never touched on before, never researched before, and so over the course of the weekend, I had to figure out where I stood on that, and it really comes down to just, frankly, just knowing which questions to ask and being willing to not being willing to look like the idiot in the room asking
Mm-hmm.
the dumb questions, right?
Sure.
Because if you have the question, obviously somebody else probably does too. We've always been told that, and that's absolutely true as an elected official.
Right. Right. So always be willing to ask, the tough questions, or sometimes just the simple questions that still those need an answer just as much as any other one.
Absolutely.
So kind of on that point, actually, let's talk first. Tell me a little bit more about what's going on with this strategic plan. I've been hearing a little bit
Yeah.
about it. I'm curious. I'm excited to see opportunities for community to weigh in as well. But if you can just kind of give me a little bit of rundown.
I'm really excited about the strategic plan. This is going exactly the way that uh, you know a lot of the community members were saying we need to focus on. Number one priority is core services, right? Which on the campaign trail we were talking about getting back to basics. So it's made it to our strategic plan. We're getting back to core services, and within those core services is priority number one is public safety, streets, and then following that was parks and rec and utilities. So public safety and streets are the number one at the forefront, ensuring that we've got the infrastructure we need, but also ensuring that we've got good fire protection and good
Mhm.
law enforcement as well. So that's our number one focus from the city council side. Staff still has to weigh in. Public still has to weigh in as well. The other priorities that exist as well is um, good fiscal responsibility or good fiscal policy, basically setting ourselves up in a way that we can provide those core services. Um, Government efficiency, so ensuring that we're not providing overlapping services, working with our partners like Mesa County, D51, in a strategy that helps out the community in a kind of a combined way, especially when in regards to homelessness and things of that nature. The other big one as well was housing. So
Mhm.
that's on everybody's mind. Housing is huge, and so we're gonna take the approach of um, trying to, and we saw this also with that task force. We're trying to find solutions where we can make the process of building easier. So making sure that those happen easier, and then also prioritizing. Um, and there's a few debates on this on what that kind of looks like, but prioritizing housing that is going to increase our total inventory and reduce that deficit. So
Mhm.
that's my goal on it, is to reduce that deficit, because I look at it in a supply and demand. I want to see housing prices kind of level off, and the only way we do that is by increasing um, inventory. So.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, so a lot of great goals, important goals. You said, so when will the community at large start to be able to weigh in a bit more? Is it already finalized? This is like a council plan, or okay.
So the next step in this is that staff is going to weigh in on it. They're going to. So we came up with the what, right?
Hmm.
And they're we're supposed to not get too much in the weeds with
Hmm.
what we want, but it's a general, like, this is the direction that we want to go.
Sure.
So now staff is going to take that, and they're going to figure out the how. How do we accomplish this? How do we achieve these goals, and make this happen within 2 years? Especially big goals like housing. That's not something that's going to just
Right.
happen in 2 years, right? It's a
Right.
longer term strategy, but it's the fact that we're focusing on it, right?
Hmm.
Um, so that's the next step. And then after staff goes over it, we get an opportunity to take a look at it, see if it's something that we like. And I might be wrong on this, but it's my understanding that it goes to a formal vote at a meeting, which means that it must be available to the public to review. So the public gets to review it at strategic, and then we get review it before the meeting, and then the public can give us comment at that point. So
Great. Well, I'm excited. Yeah, I think, it seems to be strategic planning season. School district just finished theirs. I've seen some posts about the county doing theirs and now the city. Is this a thing the city's done before, I think, several times, or how does this cycle work?
yes, so it's an every 2 year thing. I believe it's. I mean, it seems like it's timed with the election, and it would make sense that it's timed with the
Hmm.
election, because as you get new elected officials, strategies and focuses are gonna be apparent that they change, and then it gives those officials the opportunity to tell staff like, hey, this is what I want you guys to focus on in the next 2 years, and then a new election happens, and then things might change.
Awesome.
Um, the the frequency of it, I think, might be tied with that. I'm not certain what the history is on it though.
Sure. No, that's okay. That's okay. Well, for everybody joining us, thank you for the time tonight. We're with City Councilman Robert Ballard. He's in his first year, his first 70 days, getting close to that 100-day mark. So we're excited to catch up and learn from him. You mentioned parks and recreation being, one of the top items coming out of the strategic plan number two after public safety and streets. Orchard Mesa Pool.
Yeah,
You and I, yeah, it's something that I know we've been checking in on back and forth like over the years, right? You're a proud Orchard Mesa resident, as am I. So I'm excited for your interest. What's going on with it? And then, yeah, I would like to share a couple thoughts, but I want to hear obviously
yeah,
from you.
yeah. So the current status of it is so we just installed that new boiler, so we're back open for business for the summer. And as everybody knows, that the deadline for closure has gotten pushed back to 2026, or I can't remember what the article was, what the exact date was, but it looked like it was pushed back a little bit of time for us to try and figure out what we're going to do. My intent, to simply put, is I want to see the pool stay open. It's a resource for our community. It's a good asset, and I know that here in Orchard Mesa, we definitely enjoy having it, and it's very it resembles the trend that we're seeing here in Orchard Mesa, where we've seen clinics leave, we're potentially seeing the library leave.
Hmm.
Now, the pool might leave. I've been. You might have seen that on the 26th, I have lemonade with Robert Ballard, right? Which I'm very excited about. But the reason why we're doing that versus how other council members have like coffee with Cody and coffee with so and so, is because we don't have a lot of just open coffee shops that aren't overly busy on a Saturday where I can come in and hold one of those events.
Hmm.
So there's this trend that we have a lack of focus on providing some of those services up here. And so I think it's really important that we do find a solution. Now that's where it's hard, and this is where I'm unfortunately not gonna make your day, and that is I don't have a good solution for the pool. There's a lot of
Hmm.
people that have floated a ton of different ideas out there, and what should have happened is we should have had a better solution where all three entities that agreed to maintain it continued to maintain it. What should have happened is when we decided to invest in an over $100 million rec center north of town, we should have probably set some sort of funds aside to update existing recreation facilities. The the issues that we're going to be facing here in the future is that our community in general is tax tired, is bond tired. They're tired of going to the polls every November and seeing another bond measure. And so that's going to be a hard thing for us if we determine that that's going to be the solution.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other hard part, and this is something that I would like to focus on, but it's hard to just stand up, and that is the public-private partnership, where you've got city ownership of the facility, but it's managed by a nonprofit like the YMCA model.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part is as I've been told, the YMCA was approached about this, and they decided not to go forward with it. So that means that any nonprofit that would take it on would have to be homegrown. So I don't know if that looks like if Save the Orchard Mesa Pool group
Mm-hmm.
turns into a nonprofit organization that saves the Orchard Mesa Pool, that'd be great. But there's so much that goes into that. So
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's, it's a tough nut, and we've been working on it for, just from my involvement, 5 years, and for others, decades, right? And I think the thing that I'm curious about or hopeful about is when it's brought up, and like I brought up the pool a couple city manager coffees ago, and it was like, well, you tell me where you're going to find 6 million. Why why is it on me, or why is it even on you? Is it like we have a city with several paid staff that have several degrees, um, that know this stuff. How can we and it's an 80-20 issue, like 80% support to 20 opposed. Like, yeah, I'm about to go on with the Mesa County Compass ladies, and when they agree, we agree,
yeah.
me and them, like that's a beautiful issue that we have a lot of support behind. But it seems like, and did a core request. And by the way, I saw you were asking about the pool, so I appreciate that. But it really seems like when I was seeing from the city was, you know what? We got the new rec center. They're going to be okay with that. And it really just feels like a nice pat on the head.
Mm-hmm.
Orchard Mates, don't worry. You're going to love the new center. If you can go out and find 6 million, good luck to you. But it's like the city works for us, right?
Right. So the one thing I'll say is about that 6 million number is, a lot of times, I look at like kind of the description of it, and it seems like they call it the modernization standard. And the
Mm,
modernization standard to me sounds like a lot of fluff, a lot of extra things. And this is where, and this is where we'll probably disagree. But when we have projects in the private market versus private projects in the public market, if Bananas decided to expand and build a facility that had 5 pools, a rock gym, an indoor gym, and a track on it, they're not going to spend $117 million on it, right? They're gonna find a way to lower that cost. They're going to find a way to phase in the construction so that way they can afford it as they expand. The $6 million fund might be pretty accurate. We were given kind of a high level overview on what that $6
mhm,
million would be, but it sounded like it was modernization. So there's gray area in what that looks like, and that's why I say, having a nonprofit manager side of this organization seems like a good solution, is because they're going to have a board, they're going to have donors, they're going to have people that are going to be hyper focused on this. Very similar, like we've got a board that manages the field at Lincoln Park, right? They're going to be hyper focused on this particular issue, and they're going to make sure that they trap the funding for it. Now, that might mean that we increase fees, right? That might mean that
mhm,
it's not going to be as cheap as it used to be, because it's not
mhm.
subsidized anymore, right? And that's just going to be, that might be a reality that exists. But that also might mean that we get more community members that are willing to donate high dollar amounts, that are willing to invest in the pool. So as far as where that $6 million come from, or whether that $6 million is an accurate amount, I can't really speak on it too much. Again, I've got ideas that people have floated as well. But what I can tell you is I understand, like, why this doesn't seem fair. Why is it like on me? I want to keep this thing that the city, county, and D51 decades ago said that, yep, we will maintain this. And now all of a sudden it's on me to try and figure out how to stay and keep it open.
Hmm.
Um, but also that is how great organizations are born. So
Yeah, I think, my hope really is, I think we have a majority of council that genuinely cares about this pool and genuinely
yeah,
wants it. And I'm just looking to see the city want that. As by the city, I mean, like, staff,
yeah,
um, across the board, those with kind of that internal decision making to have that same passion for it. I'm not sure if it's there because I see it in and that's where I'm like, I see it in council. I don't know if I see it in like the deep state. I don't know. I like yeah, the
oh yeah,
behind the scenes,
right.
and I love our public servants, and but there's a disconnect. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and I think there's also like I said, there's gonna be a shift in priority. It's funny how easy it is to put in front of council a proposal to change Whitman Park for $5 million.
Right.
That's a like, why is that so easy to do? Versus, present a plan on how we're going to modernize something we already dedicated or committed to the community to keep keep going.
Hmm.
And the reason why I'm hesitant to go full send on it and say, yeah, we're going to take those dollars
Sure.
and go forward with it is because the reality is we didn't have a plan for paying for Whitman Park. We didn't have a plan for paying for a lot of these other, cool projects that were being floated in front of city council. So, or at least not a very good one. I don't know what the plan was. At the time, it sounded like there wasn't one. And so, I can't just say, well, we've got the money, we got to be able to pay for it. But yeah, before I go accepting these awesome plans to start new projects on other parks somewhere else that we haven't committed to, that is going to be like a question that pops up every time is, well, we've got the money for this. Why don't we have the money to update infrastructure we already have? So
Sweet.
yeah, that is definitely something that'll be in the back of my mind. That said, I do also want to shout a warning, and that is that what's happening to Orchard Mesa Pool
Hmm.
will also happen to our other facilities that are going up right now. If you guys like the idea of the rec center, if you guys like the idea of some of these other awesome projects, that's great. We really, as a community and as a city, we need to start looking at these projects in a longer term strategy and say, we're building these things to last, a century. We're using
Hmm.
cinder blocks. We're using high dollar amounts because we want them to last a long time. Okay, cool. Are we going to be dedicated to, or are we going to be committed to maintaining these facilities and paying the bill every single month in 50 years? Because if we can't commit to that, then maybe we shouldn't be spending as much money on these projects. So that way or maybe we should design them in a way that they can be shifted over to the private market easier. So that way somebody else can take the reins on it. It's just, I see what's happening in Orchard Mesa, and I don't see anything that's changed since then that makes me say that it's not going to happen to these other facilities.
Hey, I think you and I very much agree in that regard of like that was my first thing. I'm like, if you let this happen, if you let this entity that so many people care about just evaporate, what's to say that a newer, bigger rec center is not going to come along in 30 years, 40 years? And they're like, we don't need that old one on Patterson. Give me a break. That thing's a piece of junk.
Right.
So yeah, it's that real commitment. Well, I appreciate it a lot, Robert. I think you hit the nail on the head, man. It's interesting the projects that can, I'm sure, come before you. And so having those questions and really saying there's this demand by the community from a broad coalition. Let's pause and tell me why this project is okay to fund or they've found the funds for and not the other. So I think that's yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll be right behind you with that. So
Yeah.
well, that 30 minutes went fast.
Yeah. I did.
I really appreciate it. Can I ask you one last question before I let you go?
Sure.
It's real quick, hopefully. So you got endorsed by the firefighters union.
I did.
Um, and I think they have their presentation coming up. Is there anything new coming up with those guys and gals in regards to
I
recognition
think
or bargaining?
I don't think there's anything new
Okay,
to really publish. I think that you're because I did watch that interview with them. I think you've pretty much got the short and long of it. I'm looking forward to our workshop that we're going to have with them in August, and we'll
great.
kind of ask some questions and really narrow in on what they're asking for, what the city can do to make sure that as a I don't know if you know this about me, but I went to school for firefighting. I got an associate's degree in firefighting. I fully intended to go firefighting way, just kind of got distracted by other careers.
Sure.
But yeah, so I definitely care about our firefighters, and that's going to be something that we'll be looking at soon, and in August.
Okay, I appreciate it. All right, one last plug. When is your lemonade? Where is it at?
Yeah,
What
so at
flavors
Eagle
are you
Rim
gonna
Park,
have? Okay, you run
Eagle
park.
Rim Park. My daughter will be serving the lemonade because she loves doing lemonade stands. And then obviously it's on me, right? And so you guys don't have to pay for it. But yeah, she'll be serving the lemonade, Eagle Rim Park, 11 a.m. and that'll be on July 26th.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, Robert. It was great having you. I'm just going to close this thing out, so I'll let you go.
Okay,
But we would love to have you on again, the next 70 days or what have you, or before then.
sounds good.
Great. All right.
All right,
Have a good one.
see you, Nick.
See ya. Okay, everyone. Well, that was Councilman Ballard. We were very excited to have him on. It's great. We especially love having those residents from Orchard Mesa, those working class people on our council. I think he hit the nail on the head. Exactly right. Of when priorities are coming from city government, it's up to the council to ask those questions of why, and it's up to the council to push and call for things that the community is calling for. It's something. Thank you so much for joining us, Cody. Yeah, I think Robert did awesome, and it's something that I truly believe of elected officials. It's not your job to bring the entity's message to the people. It's the people's message to that entity. And I think we have a great opportunity with such broad support for the pool to really have a powerful entity in the city. Um, and I know that county partner and school partners could still play a role in this, but such a powerful entity as the city to help co-lead this effort because you have the community ready to go, but co-lead this effort on saving the Orchard Mesa pool. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. I'll put a link for our Patreon. We're doing great. We're getting some more fundraising going. You can see I updated the background. Just kidding. This is fake. But we're getting things going. We're really excited for the opportunity for Better Together to expand. And speaking of which, this new council has been awesome in regards to getting a hold of. So we'll have Ben Van Dyke on this Friday at 1 p.m. And then next week, we'll have an hour with Laurel Cole for a town hall. So we definitely want your questions. I won't be talking the whole time. We want to see from you in the chat or send them ahead of time to be part of this thing. So thank you all for tuning in tonight, and we'll be back on Friday. Have a good one.